Have you ever wondered why some men always stay cool, respected, and totally unshaken, while others get dragged through endless emotional games until they lose themselves completely? The secret isn't just luck. It's about having the right knowledge, and the truth I'm about to share with you will change your life forever. Once you understand this, nobody can dangle affection in front of you like a prize anymore. No one will be able to mess with your head or keep you trapped in a cycle of confusion, because you'll finally see through the smoke and mirrors. Welcome back to Secrets Inside the Mind. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now to join our community. Stick around, because I'm going to reveal 5 deep truths that will end the games for good and put you back in the driver's seat of your own life. I don't want you to just sit there and watch this video like a movie. I want you to treat this moment as a real turning point in your story. If you're feeling this so far, smash that like button to help other men find this message. Also, take a quick second right now to go down to the comments and type these exact words: "I refuse to be blind anymore." That is your personal declaration of independence. That is where your new chapter begins. Once you've done that, keep watching, because this first truth is going to totally flip your perspective on what love actually is. But here's the crazy part. Love, as you've always imagined it, might not even be real. Number 1. Understanding the gap between conditional and genuine love. Most men walk into a relationship with total blind faith. They have this deep-seated belief that when a woman looks them in the eye and says, "I love you," it means she loves every single part of them, the flaws, the hard times, the weaknesses, and even the big failures. They picture her love as a flame that never goes out, something steady and unconditional no matter what happens. But now this is where it gets interesting and a little uncomfortable. The harsh reality is that most of what you see in modern dating isn't unconditional at all. It's conditional. It's a type of affection that only exists under certain terms and rules, whether anyone actually says them out loud or not. Just think about it for a minute. How does her voice change when the money starts to slow down? How does her whole vibe shift when you stop giving her constant attention, or when that initial honeymoon spark starts to fade away? Suddenly, that warmth you felt turns into a cold shoulder. The affection starts feeling heavy, like it's attached to invisible strings you never even knew were there. That is conditional love happening right in front of you. Now, this doesn't mean women are cold or heartless people. It just means they are naturally wired to react to things like security, stability, and what you can provide. Their feelings often just reflect the world around them. When life feels safe and you're being consistent, her love glows. But when those things disappear, her behavior changes instantly. The real danger for men is failing to see this pattern before it's too late. Here is the massive mistake so many guys make. They just keep giving. They pour all their energy, their time, their cash, and their loyalty into the relationship, thinking they'll get that same level of devotion back. They honestly believe that making sacrifices is a guarantee that she will do the same. But the real world doesn't work that way. Men keep emptying their tanks until they have nothing left to give, and then they stand there feeling totally lost, wondering why their loyalty wasn't enough to keep things together. The issue isn't that these conditions exist. The issue is that men refuse to admit they are there. They hold on to this fairy tale that love will always match their effort, and that fantasy eventually breaks them. When she pulls away or starts acting like the relationship is a business deal, they feel betrayed instead of just seeing the reality of the situation. But you won't believe what happens next when you finally wake up. Once you see the truth, you don't become an angry or bitter person. You become a wise one. Instead of giving everything away for free, you start watching. You stop letting sweet words trick you, and you start measuring her real actions. You stop judging her love by how she treats you when you're winning, and you start looking at how she acts when you're at your absolute lowest point. This is exactly where your clarity begins. You start to see that what you call deep devotion was actually just her liking your stability, her being thankful for your hard work, or her feeling safe because of what you bring to the table. It wasn't really about who you are deep down. Once you realize this, you can't go back to being blind. But here's the crazy part. This realization actually gives you all the power. If you're enjoying this so far, smash that like button. This knowledge forces you to stop giving too much of yourself to someone who wouldn't do the same. It's a wake-up call that love isn't a bank account you keep draining until you're totally broke. It teaches you how to draw a line in the sand, to watch how she acts before you jump in, and to demand that she gives back just as much as you do. Dealing with conditional love doesn't mean you're a failure. It just means you have to stop living with your eyes shut. If she only stays around when you're winning but vanishes the second you hit a rough patch, you finally have the answer you needed. If her kindness changes based on how much money is in your pocket or how much energy you have left, then you know exactly what her love is made of. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Once you understand the foundation, you stop being a slave to her moods. A man who learns this lesson stops pouring his heart out without a limit. He starts protecting his assets, his schedule, his peace, and his loyalty. He becomes very picky about who gets to be in his inner circle. He doesn't close his heart off to the world, but he definitely puts a guard at the door. That one small shift changes the entire dynamic of the relationship. Since you know the truth now, you don't need to beg for her approval anymore. You see the strings attached to her affection. You become careful, smart, and strong. When a man hits that level of self-respect, the game changes forever. Now, hit subscribe and tap the bell so you don't miss the next one, because we are moving on to point number 2, the incredible power of your attention. Most guys have no idea how much this matters. They treat their focus like it's trash, handing it out to anyone who walks by like those free food samples at the mall. But your attention isn't cheap. It is actually one of the most expensive things you own. Every look, every quick text, every nice word, and every long phone call is a piece of your energy. And your energy is your influence. You won't believe what happens next when you realize that influence is pure power. Here is the trap most men fall into. When you really like a girl, you drown her in your focus. You text her all day long. You like every single photo she posts. You tell her she's beautiful every 5 minutes. At the start, it feels like you're just being a nice guy. You think you're showing her that you care, but you don't see that having too much of something makes it worthless. Anything that is too easy to get is eventually ignored. Women understand this better than men do. They know that your attention is the fuel for their self-esteem. They love the rush of being chased and the high of being told they are perfect every day. For a lot of women, it's not even about liking you back. It's just about the ego boost of being wanted. The more you give them, the more they take. But it doesn't actually make them love you more. In fact, it usually does the exact opposite. You've seen this happen before. The guy who is always there, always calling, and always chasing her becomes totally invisible to her. He is so easy to find that he has no impact anymore. She never has to wonder what he's doing or miss his voice. Why would she? He's already sitting right there, waiting for her to snap her fingers. The mystery is dead before it even started, so she feels zero need to work for him. But wait until you see what happens when a man finally pulls back. Suddenly, his silence is louder than any shout. His absence tells a massive story. When that constant stream of compliments stops, she starts getting curious. She notices the empty space where you used to be. She starts asking herself, where did he go? Why isn't he blowing up my phone? Who is he talking to now? That shift in the air creates a deep desire and even a little bit of fear that she's losing you. This is the hard truth. The more careful you are with your attention, the more valuable it becomes. When you stop throwing it away, it becomes rare. And in this world, rarity is the only thing that creates true value. Your look starts to mean something again. Your words carry real weight. Your time feels like a special gift she has to earn, not something she's guaranteed to have. So, which part of this surprised you most? Drop it in the comments. Now, here is where so many guys completely lose the plot. They imagine that pulling back is just some mean trick or a cruel game to play with her head. But listen, it's not about being mean at all. It's actually about having deep respect for your own time and your own energy. Once you truly understand that your attention is a sacred thing, you'll stop throwing it away on girls who don't give you anything back. You'll stop hunting for a good job from someone who loves being in the spotlight but refuses to share it with you. This is the exact moment when the entire balance of power flips on its head. Instead of being the guy who is constantly begging for her to notice him, you turn into the man she is actually working hard to impress. If you're finding this helpful, hit subscribe and tap the bell so you don't miss the next one. Instead of fighting for her approval, you start to realize that your own approval is the real trophy. The more you put into yourself your big goals, your personal growth, your fitness, and your bank account, the more rare and expensive your attention becomes. Just think about it for a second. A man who spends every ounce of his energy chasing after people ends up feeling empty and being ignored. But the man who takes that same energy and pours it into his own life becomes a magnet. He doesn't have to run after anyone. Women start chasing him because they know his focus is something they have to earn, not something that just happens automatically. So the lesson here is very simple. You have to guard your attention like it's a chest of gold. Give it out wisely, not for free. But here's the crazy part. Just watch how people react when they see your time is no longer a sure thing. The very same women who used to ignore you will suddenly start to change. They'll lean in closer. They'll start fighting to get back what you no longer hand out so easily. And here is the big takeaway. When you finally grasp how much power your attention has, you stop being a chaser. You become a chooser. And that is when the whole game changes forever. Now this is where it gets interesting, because we have to talk about number 3. Emotional control. For years and years, men have been taught that the way to prove your love is through your reactions. If she ignores you, the world tells you to chase her even harder. If she pulls away, you're told to double your effort. If she gets angry, you're supposed to show your passion by getting loud right back. And if she says she might leave, you end up begging her to stay, thinking that being desperate is the same thing as being devoted. This cycle has trapped so many men in a kind of emotional prison, making them slaves to their own feelings. But you need to see this clearly. The most powerful tool many women use isn't their looks or their charm. It's their ability to move your emotions whenever they want. They will test your temper. They will test your jealousy. They'll poke at your insecurities. And every single time you blow up, panic, or start pleading, you are handing her the proof that she is the one in control. If she figures out that ignoring you drives you insane, she can use that against you. If she knows that making you jealous makes you act crazy, she can flip that switch whenever she likes. If she sees that your fear of being alone makes you beg, she can use that to pull your strings. Your reactions become her leverage, and the more she can predict what you'll do, the easier you are to handle. But everything shifts the second you learn how to stay in control of yourself. When her silence doesn't bother you anymore, when her bad moods don't make you panic, and when her threats don't break your cool, the games suddenly stop working. Your calmness will actually start to unsettle her. Your steady vibe will confuse her. Your refusal to fall apart under pressure forces her to finally meet you on level ground. You have to understand this. A man who can't control his feelings is just a puppet on a string, but a man who masters them becomes totally untouchable. Having emotional control doesn't mean you turn into a robot or shut off your heart. It just means you refuse to let those feelings tell you what to do. It means knowing that anger is just a sign of weakness when you can't contain it. It means knowing that loud jealousy is just insecurity, and that begging for her to stay isn't loyalty, it's just pure desperation. Just picture this for a moment. She storms out of the room, fully expecting you to follow her. But you stay perfectly calm. She gives you the silent treatment, waiting for you to start apologizing like crazy. Instead, you just carry on with your day, steady and relaxed. She hints that she might leave, expecting you to lose it. You won't believe what happens next when you simply stay composed. You answer her with a quiet, solid strength. showing her you're willing to walk away the moment respect disappears. That is real emotional control in action. And do you want to know what happens next? You earn her respect. You see, a man's strength isn't about how loud he can shout or how fast he panics when things go wrong. It's actually measured by how stable and grounded he stays when he's being tested. Most women are naturally drawn to mystery and steadiness. They want a man who can't be pushed around or played with like a little toy. Mastering your emotions turns you into that exact kind of man. But here's the crazy part. This shift goes much deeper than just how she sees you. Emotional control completely changes how you look at yourself in the mirror. You stop feeling bad about having feelings, but you finally stop letting those feelings run the show. You start to understand that being silent often carries way more weight than 1,000 angry words. You learn that simply walking away is sometimes the loudest, most powerful statement a man can make. In that quiet stillness, you find your true power. If you're finding this helpful so far, do me a favor and smash that like button right now. The honest truth is that when you gain control of yourself, you break one of the oldest cycles of manipulation. Suddenly, her tears don't sway you anymore. Her anger doesn't scare you. Her withdrawing from you no longer makes you feel like a slave to her whims. She quickly realizes she has to talk to you with actual respect instead of playing games. She has to show you her real character, not just some temporary drama. Now, this is where it gets interesting. When you control yourself, you naturally control the entire relationship. You aren't doing this by being a bully or a manipulator. You're doing it by refusing to be moved around like a tiny pawn on her game board. You are the one who sets the rhythm of the relationship. You are the one who sets the tone. She either steps up to your level, or she walks away. Either way, you keep your head high and your dignity stays intact. This is exactly why emotional control is the third big truth every man has to master. Without it, you'll always be reactive, constantly dancing to her changing moods. But with it, you set the pace, and the entire game changes forever. Before we move on, make sure to hit subscribe and tap that bell so you don't miss the next one. Now we get to number 4, the reality of options. Since we were kids, men have been told a very dangerous lie. We're told that women are the ultimate prize, and that a man has to chase, perform, and prove himself just to keep her interested. This mindset creates nothing but desperation. It tricks men into thinking that if they lose one specific woman, they'll never find anyone else ever again. So, what do? They cling. They put up with being treated poorly. They lower their standards to the floor. They beg for tiny crumbs of affection, all because they're convinced she's the only option they'll ever have. But here is the real truth you need to hear. Men have options too. The only difference is that a woman's options are usually just handed to her, while a man's options have to be built from the ground up. A young woman can just walk into a crowded room and get attention without even opening her mouth. But for a man, options don't just fall into his lap out of nowhere. They are forged in the gym when he chooses hard discipline over being lazy. They are built in his career when he puts in years of work to become financially free. They are sharpened in his personality when he develops real confidence and a sense of purpose. A man who refuses to build himself up will always stay trapped in a world of scarcity. His choices stay limited, and because of that, his power stays limited too. But a man who spends his time building is never without a choice. He isn't desperate because he knows his value goes up every single time he invests in himself. When you finally realize this, the whole dynamic of your relationships will change. Think about it for a second. If you truly believe she's the only person who will ever want you, you'll tolerate her games, her rudeness, and her lack of effort. You will accept a half-hearted love because you're terrified of having no love at all. But here's the most important point. If you know there are plenty of women in the world who would value the man you've worked to become, you'll never beg to stay in a situation that drains your soul. Having options creates a sense of freedom, and that freedom is true power. This is exactly why women are so often attracted to men who don't seem afraid to lose them. They can sense that abundance. They can feel that he has a choice. And honestly, it is that exact vibe, the fact that you aren't scared to leave, that makes them want you even more. There is nothing more magnetic than a guy who doesn't hold on tight because of fear. But here is the crazy part where everything changes. Once you truly realize you have other paths, you stop acting like a beggar chasing after her. You stop making yourself small just to keep her looking your way. You stop trading your dignity for a little bit of her temporary attention. Instead, you stand tall, fully aware that if one person leaves, someone else will show up, and usually, she'll be even better. If you're finding this helpful so far, smash that like button and let me know your thoughts. This doesn't just change the way she looks at you, it completely flips how you view yourself. Suddenly, being rejected doesn't terrify you anymore. Long silences don't crush your spirit. Breakups don't destroy your world because you know that plenty of other opportunities exist, and you have what it takes to get them. That specific mindset wipes away every bit of desperation from your soul, and women can feel that shift immediately. A man who has choices doesn't just get stuck in a relationship, he actively chooses to be there. He doesn't plead for respect. He demands it by his very presence. He doesn't fear losing someone. He accepts it as part of life. And because he is willing to walk out the door at any second, games don't work on him anymore. Threats lose their power. Guilt trips fail. The fear of being alone has no grip on his heart. Now, this is where it gets interesting. So hit subscribe and tap the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. Here is the real lesson. Build your life until you actually have those choices. Put work into your fitness, your job, your talents, and your mindset. Create those options for yourself, and you will never be a prisoner to the fear of losing one specific person ever again. Once you understand the reality of having a choice, you stop living in a state of panic. You start living in total freedom, and that freedom makes you absolutely untouchable. Moving on to number 5, self-respect. Way too many guys jump into a relationship ready to sacrifice everything: their time, their hard-earned money, and their total devotion. But they leave behind the single most important thing: their own self-respect. They value a bit of romance over their own dignity. They put their physical desires above their personal standards. They value her beauty more than their own boundaries. When a man does this, he is essentially giving away his power without even knowing it. A man who lacks self-respect is like a castle with no walls. He is easy to walk over, easy to beat, and very easy to control. Women pick up on this vibe instantly. They can tell when a guy is willing to break his own rules just to keep them around. They see when he ignores lies, makes excuses for her, or overlooks broken promises because he's more afraid of being single than he is of losing his integrity. Once they see that weakness, you won't believe what happens next. They will test that boundary over and over again. Here is the cold, hard truth. If you won't stand up for your own respect, you can't protect your love either. You can buy her expensive gifts, write her the best poems, and give up all your free time, but she will still leave you in the dirt. None of those things matter if you've shown her that you're willing to betray yourself just to keep her happy. Love without self-respect isn't actually love. It is just submission. No matter what happens next, you come out on top. If she steps up, you finally get a partner who truly values and respects who you are. If she decides to walk away, you walk away with your dignity completely intact. In this scenario, there is absolutely no way for you to lose. But here's the crazy part without self-respect. You are stuck in a brutal, never-ending cycle. You will start to tolerate being treated poorly. You will make up excuses for her lies. You will start to accept bad behavior as if it is totally normal. Over time, you won't just lose her. You will lose your very soul. That is how a man's spirit slowly dies. If you're finding this helpful so far, do me a favor and smash that like button right now. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Once you finally wake up and understand the value of self-respect, every other piece of the puzzle falls into place. Your attention suddenly becomes more valuable because you stop wasting it on things that don't matter. Your emotions stay under control because you refuse to be dragged into someone else's chaos. Your options in life start to expand because you simply refuse to settle for less than you deserve. Most importantly, your love becomes stronger because it comes from a place of choice, not a place of desperation. This is the ultimate truth that ties everything together. Love without respect is nothing but a hollow illusion. A relationship without respect is just a prison, and a man who lacks self-respect has already lost the war before the first battle even starts. So, listen closely. Never negotiate your dignity just to get a little bit of temporary affection. You won't believe what happens next if you keep sacrificing your peace just to say you have someone standing by your side. Never let a woman's beauty blind you into lowering your personal standards. Put respect for yourself first, and watch how everything else in your world begins to shift. Once you choose to respect yourself, you become completely untouchable. And when a man is untouchable, the mind games finally have to end. Make sure you hit subscribe and tap the bell icon so you never miss our next deep dive into these strategies. You have now seen the 5 truths that every man needs to understand. Love isn't always unconditional. It usually comes with specific terms. Your attention isn't free. It is a powerful currency. Your emotions are not weapons for her to use against you. They are tools for you to master. Your options are not scarce. They grow as you build yourself into a better man. Above all else, your self-respect is not up for negotiation. It is the foundation of your entire life. When a man finally opens his eyes to these facts, something incredible happens. He stops living in the dark. He stops giving his heart away blindly. He stops trading his dignity for the hope of being loved. He doesn't become a bitter person. Instead, he becomes awake, sharp, and intentional. Just imagine the difference between these two paths. One man begs for tiny scraps of affection, always reacting to her whims, always chasing, and always lowering his bar just to keep her around. The other man stands firm. He watches, he chooses, he protects his energy, guards his focus, masters his feelings, and respects himself above all. Which man do you think actually commands respect? Which man is impossible to play games with? This is the shift that terrifies people who want to manipulate you. Once you see through the tricks, the game is over. The silent treatments and the tests don't work anymore because you are no longer a pawn. You are the one in control. Which of these truths hit you the hardest? Drop a comment below and share this with a friend who needs to hear it. Living these truths stops the control over you. You finally take charge, and that is when your whole life truly starts changing.